Hey sweeties, I'm Caitlin Matheson and I cannot wait to be back today, starting to film for you all my sweet tutorials to share all my knowledge I've learnt along the way. You might be wondering where I've been. I haven't been doing nothing. It's been a wild few months building this beautiful YouTube set so I can film more content for you to help inspire you all to get creative and keep baking. I've also built a beautiful warehouse for my team of bakers here in Melbourne, so if you would like any cupcakes or sweets, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Cake Creations by Kate, and we can help you with some beautiful desserts. But let's get into it. Today we are here back bigger, better than ever before, and I cannot wait to share this with you. So let's go. All you'll need is a cake, which I've already leveled, and I've filled it with 2 layers of vanilla buttercream. So you can use any cake recipe you like. Today we're using a vanilla mud that's nice and moist and it holds its shape really well without having too many crumbs. Once you fill your cake, you want to set this in the fridge for at least 30 minutes just to get it nice and set, and this will make our job a lot easier. I've gone ahead and made my vanilla buttercream. There's tons of recipes online, so you can just grab a recipe of vanilla buttercream and whip that up. Give it a nice stir to eliminate any air bubbles. Today we're going to make a rainbow cake, but I'm going to start with a white buttercream base, just so it's not too colourful, because by the time I add my decorations, I want them to be the star of the show. So give that a nice mix just to eliminate any air bubbles, and then you can go on and put some on the top of the cake. Make sure you have some really nice tools. I use this offset spatula and a good quality metal scraper. These are really fantastic and help with decorating. It's worth the investment. They're only around $20 each, and you will never look back once you go to metal, because you can heat them up easily and get a beautiful smooth finish. Something else I highly recommend is having a very nice quality turntable. This helps me get smooth lines without any sharp edges. So I definitely recommend investing in one of these. And if not, you could get a cheap one from, say, IKEA, like the turntables that you use for your food, just when you're entry level and starting out. It is definitely better than nothing. All right, so we're gonna start by icing the cake by moving the buttercream around to fill the top of the cake, and hold your spatula still while you're turning the turntable to get a nice smooth finish. Ensure that you have a bowl handy that you can keep scraping off to make sure that you have a very clean spatula. Alright, so let's grab a big dollop of vanilla buttercream, and I angle my arm up like this and start adding it to the top edge of the cake. You want to add more than you need, because we are going to scrape this back and we don't want to get any crumbs in our icing, and we don't want to hit the cake. Once you do that, it's kind of hard to keep adding extra. So you add a lot extra than you think, and then once you've dot the top, you want to go and add at the bottom half. Now that we're getting it nice and covered, we'll be ready to smooth it. As you can see, I kind of smooth out the buttercream as I'm actually applying it, so then it's not too hard of a job with my scraper. As you get practice doing this, you'll be more and more effective, and it won't take long once you get used to it, so don't stress if you're slow at the beginning. We all started there. Now take your straight scraper, and you want to angle it close to the cake, so not sticking out too much, and slowly begin to move the turntable. You don't want to go too fast here and take off too much of the icing at the very beginning, because if you take off too much, then you're just going to have to reapply it. So go nice and steady and slow, and we'll slowly take off that top edge of icing. As you can see, if you have a nice buttercream recipe, this is a very quick and easy process, but this is also to do with how I applied it. So if you start with how I applied it in that nice downward stroke, going all the way to the bottom, it's nice and even to begin with, and you don't have buttercream everywhere. So continue scraping this until it gets nice and smooth with minimal air bubbles, just like so. When you get to this point, we're going to tackle the top edge and the bottom board. So I'm just going to put my scraper directly on the board and turn to clean up that bottom edge of icing on the board. So now pop that one down, and we're going to use our other spatula to clean up this top edge. So you want to take your spatula, and we want to slowly pull in that top edge. So you want to go very slow to begin with and scrape it off every time you do scrape into your bowl. And don't drag too much at the beginning, because we can always go back and do a second round. So slowly drag that in with a really light hand. A lot of people, I find when I'm teaching them, they dig right into the cake, and it can look really messy. So just go really softly and just feel like your hand is as light as a feather, so you're not going to damage all the work we've done for the sides of the cake. So once you get the most of the buttercream off, you can continue going around just to make sure you have a nice smooth edge. If I know my cake is going to have lots of decorations, don't worry too much about getting this perfect. If I know it's going to have a drip especially, then I don't spend a long time smoothing this because we're going to cover it up anyway. And today we're going to be putting a colour on top, so I don't worry too much because there's no point wasting time as long as it looks neat enough. Okay, now our base is iced. We can put that in the fridge to set for 20 minutes before we're going to add our layers of colour. Now that our cake is setting in the fridge, I'm going to go ahead and make our fondant rainbow. As you guys might already know if you've watched our videos before, we use the Bakel's Ready to Roll fondant icing. It is a beautiful fondant that you can buy at any good quality cake shop here in Australia. It is really easy to colour and it lasts a really long time, at least a year in your cupboard. So you can just keep it coloured, glad wrapped really tightly so it doesn't dry out, and then you can grab it anytime and use it for any decorations you need. I'm going to show you a really easy rainbow today that anyone could possibly make, so make sure you keep this in mind for your next occasion. We're going to start with our darkest colour, purple, first, and we're just going to unroll it and just take out a little bit. We've only got a 5-inch small mini cake today, so we're not going to need a massive rainbow. And then give it a knead in your hand or against the table. You'll get good at this technique as you play with fondant more and more. And then I roll it into a sausage just like this. You're going to want to try keep your hands really light on the fondant because you want to keep it nice and smooth. We're going to roll this quite thin, so just make sure you have a nice clean and dry area on your surface so you can get a really nice smooth rainbow. With fondant it does dent really easily, so try not to dig your fingers into it, and if it doesn't look good, just roll it up and redo it. Don't stress too much. You can keep redoing it until you get it exactly how you like it, and that's the beauty of fondant. No one will ever know if you don't tell them. It is a lot of trial and error to get these skills really good, so just keep practicing, and in no time I'm sure you'll be a professional decorator. Alright, so that's our perfect thickness right here. Just grab a sharp knife for this so you can easily cut your fondant without any jagged edges. I have a cute pink one, of course. Cut that on either end. Don't worry too much if it's not perfectly sized at the moment, because we're going to trim it down. I'm just going to play with it just to make sure there's no thick bits in it. It's a little bit chunky on this end, so I'm just going to lightly roll that to get it more even. And then when you've got it to the right size, you can literally just move it around and make it the arch you'd like. Some people like it skinnier. Remember, we're going to add multiple layers to this, so do it the shape that you like from the very beginning because the following colours are going to follow. And then when you're happy with it, just trim it to size. So I'm just going to trim off those edges to make them super nice and neat and nice and even. And then just roll up your excess. If you are a child and doing this, just make sure you have a parent handy to help you. Before you know it, I'm sure they're going to be addicted to making rainbows with you. And if you do make too many rainbows, you can just let them dry, and they'll last up to 3 months once they're dried. So you can keep them in an airtight container, and you can use them on any cake or cupcakes or any sweet confections that you want to make. Now we're just going to pop each colour away tightly in the glad wrap between each roll, just because we don't want that to dry out. We want to make sure we can keep reusing it. Between each colour, we're going to just use a little bit of water to stick that on. But I'll start rolling my next colour first. Once you know you've definitely got enough fondant, just cut off the excess just to make it easier. If you do have a bench that sticks, make sure you put some corn flour down. It is still quite soft, so don't stress too much because you can still keep manipulating it to get the right shape. Grab some water with a clean paintbrush. What I do is I just buy a pack of paintbrushes from the craft store and keep them in my toolkit so they're ready just for use for icing or cakes. And just add a touch of water in between and press that together. Because it's soft icing, this will dry and stick together. Just give it a little bit of a light squish. And now I'm just going to move my rainbow out of place. It is quite soft still, I've only just made it, so I'm just going to run a knife nice and flush behind it just to lift it up. And just really gently move that off to the side. I'm going to let that dry for at least 15-20 minutes, so I'm just going to finish my cake while that dries. I'll just clean up my bench. And now grab your turntable. Our trusty turntable, we're going to need that. And I've just cleaned my tools because we're going to use those once again. And I'm just going to go grab my cake, so it won't be long. Okay, so our cake's been sitting now for about 20 minutes. It's nice and firm. So I've just gone ahead and mixed up some pastel buttercream colors. So here I have a pastel pink, which I've colored with Color Mill. And I'm going to just use my spatula just to give it a fluff up, I guess you could say, and smooth out any air bubbles. I'm going to add a pastel pink base to this cake. So now that it's set, I can add a nice textured watercolor over the top without it melting too much together. So go ahead with a small amount on your spatula and just start adding in some small patches and trying to make them different shapes and sizes so it doesn't all end up looking the same. Make sure to put it down close to the board too, otherwise it can kind of end up just looking too much the same. Now take your scraper and you want to really lightly scrape that back. With this step, you don't want to press too hard against the cake. You just want to really lightly scrape off that top color, but leave it nice and textured. It really adds to the look and gives it a really nice modern touch. You can go ahead and add as many colors as you like. I'm also going to add a little bit of my purple, which I've already pre-colored as well. You can set these in between the colors back in the fridge for 5 or 10 minutes just to make sure they don't mix in, but I'm going to go in and just add them in different spots where there's not too much pink, just so they don't mix too much together. And you can do this for any design, it looks really, really beautiful. So go back in and lightly scrape that purple. And as you can see, it looks so cute, and by the time we add our rainbow and our sprinkles, it's going to be really, really nice. You can keep smoothing until you're happy with it, but I try not to go over it too much because you're just going to mix those colours together. You will get a little bit of colour on the top of your cake, so just go in and scrape the top and bring that towards the middle. We're scraping in between just like before. If you like, you can go ahead and add a little bit of colour on the top too. But I'm going to add some piping and some sprinkles, so I'm going to leave it relatively plain because I've got lots of decorations going in there. Same thing as before, you're going to take your scraper, push it tight against the board and clean up any of those colours that have smeared onto the board. Go ahead and clean it up with a cloth also. I like to start with a really neat base before I start icing, so there's no cleanup required later. And we can add our decorations and it'll be complete. And now that our cake is got our colour on it, we're going to add our rainbow. So you're just going to be really careful with the rainbow because it is quite soft. I usually leave this to dry a little bit, but if you leave it to dry too long and it's flat, it isn't going to wrap around the cake, so just keep that in mind. So just really carefully pick up the rainbow. If it does fall apart, we can't stick it back together, so that's totally fine. And I'm going to place mine directly on the front here, and you're going to very gently push it onto the cake and just smooth that out. So you can make these rainbows in any colours, remember, so you can make it suitable for your occasion. Okay, now our rainbow's on. I'm going to use some sprinkles and some piping to decorate. So I have some boxed piping bags here for all our boxes and piping bags, and they're really great because they're really nice quality and they don't break. And I've just got a little piping tip here that is like a French tip, so it's nice and spiky. I'm just going to fill this with some of my colours that I've used. And I'm just going to go ahead and add some little squeezes on the top corner of the cake. And you just want to make sure you have nice and even pressure going all the way around. Okay, now that's done, I'm just going to get some sprinkles and we're going to add them, and then I can see if it needs any more piping after that. So today I've got some pastel rainbow sprinkles from Get Sprinkled. They're a small business Australian brand, so I always like to support them when I'm choosing some boutique sprinkles for my cakes. And I'm just going to sprinkle some on the top. They've got these cute love hearts in them too, which is really sweet. I'm going to go ahead and add some piping, just in some random spots. And I like to do sometimes two in a cluster and then a smaller one, just so it's not random on its own. But you definitely can add them wherever you wish. This just gives it a little bit more interest. Now I'm just going to put some sprinkles on the bench just so I can see them. Just make sure you cleaned it and sanitized it. But this one's all for me, so that's okay. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of water on my finger just to pick up some of those sprinkles, and then I can place them directly where I'd like. And then keep picking up some sprinkles, and then you can place them exactly where you're after them. Some will fly off, but that's okay. You've got to be persistent with sprinkles to get them where you'd like. Okay, so now we're ready to add our glitter, and I'm just going to put it on a brush that I use just for glitter and slowly tap, and I also add some on the sides, just trying to throw it towards the cake a little bit. You can't see it in person, but this looks super pretty. I'm just adding some on the sides also. I like to add lots because it just makes it nice and fun. It makes you feel happy when you see the glitter. Sometimes you can't see it the best on camera, but it looks beautiful and sparkly in person. And now we have our beautiful finished rainbow cake. I hope you learned something today, and you can apply these techniques to many desserts that you make in the future. If you do recreate this cake, make sure you tag me on my private Instagram, Caitlin Matheson, or leave a comment below and let me know how you went. I love reading your comments, so please do keep commenting. Let me know any future video requests you'd like to see, and I'll be sure to keep creating for you. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.